Hello and welcome to today's video. So in this one we're going to be reviewing how Back4Blood works on a phone, on a tablet and on a PC through Microsoft's xCloud service. For those of you unfamiliar with Back4Blood, it's a brand new game out and has landed day one on Game Pass and also on xCloud, which is fantastic news for all of you cloud gamers out there. It's like a spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead, so you team up with some friends, you can do it co-op, you can do it solo, and you basically fight hordes of zombies as you go through fighting through different objectives. It's got a bit of a twist, so it has a card system and it's a really unique take on it, and so far we've had an absolute blast with it. Now, like we mentioned, it is available day one on xCloud, but the question is, how does it perform on the service? And in this video, we are going to find out. So first up, I want to address the elephant in the room, which is Microsoft xCloud. So in previous experience with Microsoft xCloud, we've always found it really, stuttery. We've had a lot of input lag, even when we use a controller that's physically plugged into our iPhone. However, it seems to have had a massive upgrade. So recently they moved everything across onto custom Series X hardware, which is helping to power it, and the latency has basically been fixed, well, at least for us anyway. Now bear in mind your experience will vary depending on your setup at home, but for us xCloud is working really well with this title and other titles as of last week. So let's start off with the experience on a mobile phone. So to put it in perspective, we use an iPhone 11 Pro Max for this, so that should give you an idea of the screen size that we're using. Now going into this game, we really expected it to be very kind of just hard to play on a mobile phone. Obviously it's a much smaller screen, so it would make it a less enjoyable experience, but we were pleasantly surprised, like really pleasantly surprised with this. It's pretty hard to see the menus and the navigation in terms of kind of finding that the user interface. So going through things like the controls and the gameplay options and all of that, that's quite small and it doesn't scale very well to the smaller screen, and you do have to squint quite a lot to see what's happening. However, the actual menus when you're in the game and all like the, on-screen text prompts and stuff like that, that's really easy to see, and that scales very nicely to the smaller screen, so that works well. Maybe it's because it's the type of game where you just end up pointing your gun and shooting and you just mow down hordes of zombies. I don't know, but for whatever reason, it's really fun to play on the mobile phone. It never feels as though it's too cramped, even though it's much smaller, and things are pretty clear and easy to see what's going on the screen at any given time. Seeing things like ammo drops and different items that you need to go off and pick up, all of that's really clear and easy to see. Making out different enemies, that was easy enough to see, and just the general control scheme just works incredibly well in xCloud on a mobile phone. It far exceeded our expectations, like I mentioned at the beginning, because it is a busy game and there's a lot of stuff going on and obviously fighting different hordes of enemies. I really expected this to be pretty much an unplayable mess when it came to the phone side of things, just because it would be too busy on screen. But for some reason it works really well, and I've had an absolute blast, and it's actually been one of my favourite ways to play it, just because it's so portable in that respect. Moving on to the tablet experience, and we use an iPad Pro 12.9 inch, so again that should give you an idea of how this runs, and it works really well on that as well. Again, as you would expect, with it working well on the iPhone and that smaller screen, you would expect it to work well on an iPad, and it does. Things look crisp, they look clear, and it's great to play. Moving through the settings and stuff like that is a lot easier on that bigger screen, and we didn't find any input lag, even though we were using a Bluetooth controller with the iPad, which is a first when it comes to a game on xCloud, so that works extremely well. The graphics look really good, but it starts to become a little bit more noticeable on that bigger screen that things aren't quite as good as if you were to play the game actually downloaded on a high-end gaming PC or on something like an Xbox. It doesn't mean it's awful, it still looks really good, things look really sharp, and the graphics really do stand out as being pretty good, but it does become a little bit more noticeable that it's been streamed to the device rather than anything else, so just bear that in mind when you play it on the larger devices. However, on a tablet, it's a great way to play. We didn't experience too much input lag, things looked good, and it just all fit well onto that screen size, as you'd expect, like I said. Moving across on to using it on a gaming PC. So I used it on my gaming PC just to see how that performance looks, and again, as you'd expect, everything looks good. Couldn't use mouse and keyboard, which is frustrating, but I could get over that just using my controller instead. What is really noticeable when you do play it on something like the bigger screen is the fact that those graphics are starting to look a little bit more washed out. They definitely don't look as crisp as something like GeForce Now or something like Stadia. Again, they don't look bad, but there's just something kind of almost a little bit blurry to them. Everything just looks a little bit, I don't know, it's just not as sharp as obviously if you were to download and install the game yourself. So if you are playing on a gaming PC, then just install the game instead, or if you've got an Xbox or something like that, then do it. Obviously, I know it's not always available. If you're playing on a laptop or something like that, it's still a great way to play the game. but just bear in mind that xCloud still has a few kind of issues when it comes to graphics not looking as sharp as we would like them to. However, it's still a very playable experience, it still looks really good on the big screen, and if you have no alternative way to do it other than xCloud, then it's more than playable and it's a very, very enjoyable experience. So that pretty much sums up our coverage for Back4Blood on xCloud, and I've got to say, we are really, really impressed. It's the first time we've used xCloud and come away and actually been impressed with the gaming experience on it. Like I said beforehand, there's always been a lot of input latency, a lot of dropped frames, and it just becomes a bit of a buggy mess. But this time round, we were absolutely blown away. It worked well on an iPhone, an iPad, and it also worked incredibly well on a gaming PC as well. So hats off to Microsoft, they're definitely doing something in the background. The game itself fits across all of those screen sizes, and the only real issue that we had is on the iPhone is, I suppose that settings and user interface and stuff did get a little bit cramped at times and you had to squint, but apart from that, everything scales very, very nicely across all devices. Controls all feel consistent across all of them, and we were really, really impressed with the gameplay. So if you are after playing a zombie shooter with some friends and you want to be able to play it on your phone or your tablet and you have xCloud, it's definitely worthwhile picking up. It's a really, really fun game to play, works well across all of those different devices and screen sizes, so worthwhile checking out. Hope you've enjoyed that video, and if you've got any questions, throw them down in the comments below. And if you want to see us do anything more in this cloud gaming sort of gaming review stuff in the future, by all means let us know. Currently we're focusing on doing it on a phone, tablet, and then the big screen, just to tell you how it performs, how it fits, and whether or not it's actually a playable experience on that small screen, medium screen, and big screen as well. If there's anything else you'd like us to cover, let us know and we'll do our best to put that in there. In the meantime, bash that like and subscribe button just because it helps the channel to grow, and we will see you next time. Bye!